Well, let's talk some more now about those detained Ukrainian soldiers who are now being registered as prisoners of war. Marco Sassoli is the Professor of International Law at the University of Geneva, and he joins us on the programme now. Welcome to you, Marco. So what does being registered as a prisoner of war mean, and what rights and protections does it give them?
Well, it is correct. Good afternoon. It's correct to register them, but they are prisoners of war, not only if they are registered, but also when they are not registered. As soon as they fall into the power of the Russian Federation, and then they must be treated in accordance with the Third Geneva Convention, which gives them all kinds of rights, but gives also the International Committee of the Red Cross the right to visit them, to register them. They may write to their families. They must be treated humanely. They must be fed. The wounded and sick must be cared for. And they may be interned until the end of active hostilities, except if the two parties agree on an exchange.
Looking at recent history in similar situations, have countries adhered to the rules, and what penalties can be exacted for those who breach them?
Well, for instance, in the war between Iran and Iraq in the 1980s, also the regime of Saddam Hussein was one of the most inhumane regimes one could imagine. They nevertheless treated more or less correctly, according to the Third Geneva Convention, the Iranian prisoners of war. So I think the respect of prisoners of war is something which is profoundly anchored in the tradition of peoples. And the Soviet prisoners of war in the Second World War were precisely not treated in this way by Nazi Germany, and therefore Russia has a certain historical claim that prisoners of war must be treated correctly. As for the sanctions, if they are not treated correctly, well, if you find the individuals who ill-treat prisoners of war, they may and must be punished as war criminals. And for the rest, this is the general issue of how to enforce international law. But I think in this war between Russia and Ukraine, we have seen that third states, in particular Western European and North American states, took it very seriously when there were alleged violations by the Russian Federation.
And I want to ask you about this war crimes trial that's taking place in Kyiv. The Russian soldier involved has pleaded guilty, so what kind of sentence might he get? And is there any possibility of appealing against that?
Yes, there must be a possibility of appeal. The sentence depends on the Ukrainian criminal code. It is totally lawful to try a prisoner of war not for having participated in the hostilities or having been complicit to the Russian aggression, but for war crimes. And then because of a reservation the Russian Federation has made when it became party to the Third Geneva Convention, such a prisoner of war would lose prisoner of war status, and Ukraine, when fighting against Russia, may invoke the same reservation, but I hope they will not invoke it, but continue to treat them as prisoners of war. Anyway, they have to be treated humanely.
Okay, Professor Marco Sassoli from the University of Geneva, thank you very much indeed for talking to us today.